What is grief? Who grieves? We can say the self grieves, but that might not be true. Say the soul grieves, that might be more true, depending on what you mean by that. The heart grieves, yeah, that might be true too. Okay. What we do know is we are overwhelmed by this tremendous pain. Unreasonable, irrational, power, grief, we call it grief, sorrow, loss. So then we're talking about loss. Someone, something is gone, and we know it's forever. So there's huge reaction to that. Cataclysmic, as if it's the end of the world. And it is for that being. We make it the end of the world for ourselves too. Because it is the end of that being, that part of us goes. So it's clear. Something has been taken out from our normal existence, which is the truth of impermanence, which is one of the teachings. Permanence. Whatever appears disappears, whatever comes goes. So everything has its time.
Do the conditions of one's passing determine the grief of those around them?
The passing is usually based upon different mechanics that are not easily discernible by most people. A lot of times people die, we have no idea why they die. Even under a microscope, we have no idea. See, so when your time comes, then it's really a matter of time. You have to let it go to that. You're not supposed to know everything by way of self. You have to know things by way of something deeper than self. You have to see the bigger picture in order to better understand what it is. That's why you have to see life from the preciousness of the moment rather than by way of contract or having a good day or bad day. It's not about having a good day or bad day, exactly. Time is running out, the heart's beating, time's running out. Nobody knows when the heart's going to stop or when the time is going to come. So often people are shocked in the presence of what we call death, passing into the next world. A great dilemma for people, paradox. Alive one moment, gone the next. It's life and death coming.
Is it a help then to see the sacredness of life?
If you can accept the sacredness of death, it helps. See, the sacredness of it, the lawfulness of it, see, the gift of what it is, release point. See, people don't know how to live their lives in a manner of speaking. Death comes to balance the scales. So it appears. It's always a balancing, and always from the deep. The other world is that way, and we have to accept it. So then it's okay to say we don't know. Because it doesn't matter if you know or not. But you can know. If you're in tune, if you're open to knowing, you can know. Yeah.
Does the grief felt by the survivors affect the being that's passed?
It can. You have traditions that say, don't lament. See, be happy. I'm not saying that's limited to the Irish people who want to have a party at the time of death, but there may be more to it than that, see? Yeah. What do the dead need? Okay. That's a big question. To know specifically, you need to go to the people who know the being who passed and the circumstances, sometimes, or who the person was. Some of that information and data can help to shape what might be necessary. However, that's on the physical end of what it is. The being who passes has every ability, by various means, dream, psychically, by appearance, to contact those beings it needs to be in contact with and communicate with those beings what it needs to communicate to finish up its business before it can move on to the next level. It may need to stick around for that time. Well, this happens. I've mentioned this in the videos already. Then it's up to the entity. It's not about the ones who are here. It doesn't begin or end with the ones who are here. Yeah? It's not about you and your sorrow. It's too late for that, really. In terms of the destiny of the being who's progressing, that's already done. They're gone. Where? That's the question. Under what conditions? That's the question. So as you live, you may pass. As you believe, you may experience. But a lot of it is as you don't know, you're going to experience too. Because your mind, your self-mind is not going to be able to endure what it can't comprehend. Even now it can't comprehend it. See? Because it's a whole other dimension. Unless you have experience in that domain as part of your nature, then it's going to be like a different experience depending on how you pass. If you pass slowly, it may be a gradual dismissing of karma. Could be that. Could be sudden. Someone can pass in their sleep. Under no obvious stress. Boom, psst, gone. One breath. Taken out. And they can be taken out. You can go out, but you can be taken out. This is not belief. This is not hype. This is not drama. You can be taken out. You are subject to influences you don't know. You can't see. You don't comprehend. So this is true of everybody, but I won't want to get into that right now. We have other things. Okay, so beyond grief, next.
So does the quality of the life conditions determine the quality of the death conditions?
No question about it. Yeah, one is part of a continuum, and then it goes on beyond that. How you live determines sometimes the condition of your psychic nature when you pass. Could be, depends on the circumstances of the death that you already agreed to or you set up. Hear that. That you've agreed to and you set up already. Since it's been set up already, and it doesn't seem obvious to anybody who's listening to this, it could be known because it was set up. You could know it. That means, as many people have experienced, they know exactly what the condition is of their death. Not that it's going to help them particularly, but they know how they're going to die, and they speak about it. People here say, oh, they said they were going to die this way, and they died that way. Yeah. Already agreed. It's not like they wanted it that way. It's already agreed. They received it in a dream, which meant there was a prior agreement, and they got to see it. Right? But they don't understand it properly. That they already died, but it didn't happen yet. But they saw it. So, when are you alive and when are you dead?
Does anyone go anywhere?
Well, you seem to go nowhere because you're no longer in the physical dimension, but you go everywhere. See, so there's maybe infinite places, spaces you can be at, depending on your earning and your deserving, so to speak. So it's a progression. It's a progression. The spiritualists know this. The yogis know this. So it's no mystery. It's just a matter of experience, whether you know it or not, for yourself. And that depends sometimes on how young you are as a soul on earth, progressing soul, or how old you are as a soul on earth.
Do the dead experience grief in their parting from the living?
Sadness, sorrow, darkness, even more so than in the flesh in some cases. That's what hell is called. See? When you leave, you go into hell realm. See? Yeah. And it's not that it's a physical place. No. It's a state of consciousness. It's a state of darkness, a state of ignorance, pain, self-created. It's a state of contraction more than a state of expansion. Therefore, it behooves all smart individuals here practicing spiritual peace to practice expanding yourself into spiritual consciousness. To undo the gravitational devices of your ancestry that failed to awaken themselves.
Is grief real in a sense? Or
Absolutely real. It's pleasure real. It's all real. It's all relatively real. It's all born to distract you from practice, and yet it arises in the midst of practice. So then you have to choose what experience you need to learn from, to determine how much of such an experience of pleasure or pain you need in order to further your cause here, which is to come to a certain level of service for the sake of helping other beings. Simply and always higher purpose.
So do the living serve the dead by their grief?
No, not particularly, and nor do they not serve the dead by their happiness, particularly. They're two different domains. They do intermingle, but they're different dimensions, different worlds, very different realities. Your dream world is very different from this world, and yet they are related. So you need to be able to put that together yourself, because you have an opportunity while you're alive to investigate and understand these dimensions of your own consciousness already, rather than when it's too late, when you're forced to leave this plane without any notification whatsoever, and you don't have a chance to turn anything around or go back, so to speak. There's no going back, no turning back. So, ladies and gentlemen, learn your lessons about the spiritual now and not have as many regrets as you may in not having paid attention to what's before you now.
And does regret define the death condition for some?
Regret?
Yes.
In what sense?
I mean, do the dead experience regret for what they didn't do or did accomplish?
Who knows at this point? Who cares? The dead are dead. So who cares? You need to worry about your regret now. That's what you need to do. Forget about the dead. The dead are gone. They're being taken care of by other, let's say, processes and influences. See? And other laws, operational and effective relative to the plane that they are, let's say, passing through, a dimension they're in. For the time being, it's all about how much time and what dimension, what state of consciousness or state of realization, and so on. It's relative to the individual. It's not just mechanics saying, oh, okay, because you pass over, you're going straight to heaven. Nobody knows that. Or you're going to hell, straight to hell. Nobody knows that for sure. Depends. It's incomprehensible to a certain degree. Okay. Now, there are things that occur, but I'm not getting into that because that's already handled in other areas, in terms of all this other stuff relative to ghosts and spirits. And I'm doing the Sacred Knowing of Is series, so a lot of things are answered in that particular series that I don't have to duplicate in this case now. So if there are other things beyond grief and the other world, so to speak, we can discuss those things.
Are there reasons?
That means step out of your emotion.
Are there reasons for the living to seek out or communicate with the dead?
It depends on the business that you finished or didn't finish. But to pull the dead back, I'm not sure that's exactly wise, particularly. You have to have good reason for it. Now, again, you're keeping it at this level. I'm not saying we need to stay at this level here, but it's what the living do. And it's what the living haven't done that the living need to be responsible for. You have to clean up your own life, so you make sure that when your time comes, you're at peace with it. That's what you need to be focusing on. Not that others have passed or others have to pass, but what are you doing to make sure how you pass? That's the issue. That's the question at hand. That pertains directly to the idea of the preciousness of life. How are you? What quality of life are you bringing to you and to your people? What is it? Preoccupation with neuroses, right? Unhappiness, fear of loss, right? Fear of death, fear of mystery, fear of the unknown. There's not much life in that, actually. Okay. So undoing the darkness of preoccupation with suffering and pain is good practice. Looking into that and letting it go. Say, no, we need to live happy lives here now. This is the time to be happy. And create happy conditions for ourselves. Because our time will come. The time of the cloud coming over you will come. And it may be too late then to do anything else but pay attention to that.
And so, what means do we use to...
You practice. You need to practice See? You need to cherish life and what freedom is. Because if you have no sense of freedom, then you are subject to everybody else's karma, and that's your life right there. Everybody else's karma. The next person's karma, the next telephone call's karma, that's you. So you have no life. You're alive, but you have no life. See? Dig it. You're alive, allowing the karma of other people to live your life for you. Whether that's commercial, consumerism, right? No life outside of materialism. You have to look at that. It's not that it's bad. Do you have a life outside of your materialism? See, is there any sense of spiritual life in your case or anybody else's case? Is there any balance of the spiritual and material? Is there really the harmony and the feeling of presence and neutral, okayness, having balanced your life accordingly? Or are you obsessively, neurotically, emotionally involved in things and beings to the degree where there is no spiritual life? There's this emotional life. There's this heaviness at the emotional level, this karmic life. So if you have to undo that, you got to reverse that. Say, oh, wait, I have to watch this movie to catch up with this. We got to watch this guy to catch up with what we're doing we're not even conscious of. Say, well, we hope not. We hope that I'm confirming what you know you need to be doing. No. See, before it's too late, especially those of you who watch this who have kids. You got to pay attention to your kids. Yeah. The parents are too often caught off guard with things regarding their children, whether they commit suicide or whether they're doing something under some kind of dark influence or other. You better pay attention to your kids, peeps. Don't wait for me to say it. You're responsible. I'm responsible for my children and grandchildren. Grandchildren, yes. So anytime I get a chance to talk to them, we have to get down to the real. Keep it real. What are you doing? Do you know what you're doing? You know the difference between a good influence and a bad influence? A dark influence or a light, happy influence? And so on and so forth. So it's what you're doing today and now that determines where you're going and what constitutes your path in life. And as you move forward in your self-created time-space world dream, if you have one, or your adventure, or your nightmare, depending on you. And what feedback you're getting from what you're doing. Now, because your path is your guide. Your guide is your path. And what comes to you. Moment to moment. It could be positive and you say, oh, this is good. I'm not talking about recreational pleasure. And that's not an indication of what we're talking about. We're talking about the you that can tolerate stillness. Not just compete with the next people, the neighbors, for activities and distraction, recreationally speaking. Okay? Because there's no you in that. There's just stuff. There's neurosis. And maybe a fear of being you at the same time. You have fear of being alone. Fear of being at peace. Fear of being free of yourself. These are serious fears. Fear of knowing God, let's say, if you can know such a thing. Fear of knowing soul, if you can know such a thing. Fear of knowing the truth, if you could ever know such a thing. Fear of coming in touch with your own immortality, if you can know such a thing. No. Or the fear of knowing more than you. Not just you, but what is beyond you, in a sense. Fear of happiness.
Fear of as-isness.
Fear of as-isness is all of that. Yeah, it's all of that. Everything good, as it is. And everything bad, as it is. Right, all of it. Yeah, as it is. Fear of nowness. Here-ness and beingness, all together. It's fear for fear's sake.
And so do we eliminate that fear in increments or in a
Well, it's not something you put in your pocket. No, you don't have any control over that fear at your level. At that level, what do we do? No, you have to know that there is fear. And then see how you can best deal with it in your own case. Because it's not something you can control. Say, well, how do you deal with the fear? Like you can go and get a pair of shoes. We're not talking about something that basic. No, fear is something that's been using you all your life since your birth. Your fear is based upon being born into some kind of degree of shock because you're an individual. And you don't want to be an individual. You have to give up your family life, your parents. So that we have the shock of birth that imposes itself upon us every moment. It's also the shock of death, too, at the same time. Fear of death, same thing. Comment?
So then are we feeling, let's say, fear of birth already?
You're feeling guilty because you were born already. And often many people who suffer losses like these feel that they have been, as I said before the filming, betrayed. They want to make the dying person guilty for having left and booked out in the way that they did. Why'd you do this to us? I've heard this. Why did she do this to us? Leave us here holding all these bags. What are we going to do with all these bags? Well, that was written in the contract, Mom. You just didn't see it. Saying, you didn't look at the contract fully. It wasn't that important to you at the time. You didn't see what you created. Say, when you were conceiving it, you didn't see it. You weren't reading between the lines when you conceived of what was going to happen to you. Because if you did, you would have prepared better. Okay? Because it's all known in the moment. All times are conversion upon the now. So you can know what you need to know about beginnings and end is here now if you're willing to be opening up to look at it. So there's something about that. In other words, there's no time. But there is time. You have the three times. But the past and the present and the future converge in the now. You have to have the sensitivity to be able to unravel that and understand it properly.
Is death the end of karma in a sense?
No, death is the beginning. So there is no death at the level that we need to talk. There's passing. There's passing. When the physicists say that you can't destroy energy, they're right. And spirit is a form of energy. You can't destroy it. You can move it. It can relocate. But you can't destroy it. It's got to be somewhere. It doesn't disappear. It disappears from view, your eyeballs. But it doesn't disappear from reality. It's still part of the spirit is still part of this continuum. So you can think about anybody and everybody. Abraham Lincoln, their spirits are, their essence is in the air. We're breathing it. We are that. We are cosmic essence. So you need to rest in this kind of, I guess you might say, understanding that there is a continuum. It's a profound continuum. Everything and nothing. And then we can come off of that. Cosmic embrace of reality and say, okay, now we have families. And is my great-grandmother here? Maybe so. In some form or other. Maybe. Hopefully she has better things to do than be hanging around here, like Jesus and other masters that are better off going to other dimensions where they receive more respect. Which is what they deserve, more respect than they can get on this dirt ball of purgatory here. A comment?
So is the condition of a living master that of being already gone or already
In a
dead?
manner of speaking, it is. You have to put it in terms that make sense. When we talk about a genius, in a certain sense, we usually refer to something that has reached a certain kind of culmination. Not just a person that's clever with their memory. That's not a genius, really. Where they have the unconscious available to them. So they see in all directions at the same time. Where they're actually in a certain resonance. So that they are brought here to recreate it as needed. Genius, so to speak. Yeah. We're not talking just about scientific. It may have scientific implications as well. These individuals change the way the world works mechanically. But it doesn't mean they enter higher understanding. They have mechanical understanding. And we can bank on that. They're good at it. Beyond that, can't speak about it. When we're talking about masters, we're talking about geniuses in a sense. People who already know right from the get-go what it is that they need to know. They just need to be able to align themselves with karma, and then it gets done. So they use as channels. And so it's given to them, as per my family. They say, no, it's what they give you then at that level. Well, they're giving everybody a lot of stuff. And people are following what they're given, but what they're given is not at this level. See, they're given is, when to buy a Hershey bar, when to buy a pair of shoes, when to play the numbers, when to do this, when to do that, all within the environment of social culturing. This is beyond the culturing. Genius means beyond the culturing. In my view, we're a genius. Transcultural intelligence. So in between cosmic intelligence, spiritual intelligence, karmic intelligence, mental and intellectual sort of mechanical operations, even to the highest degree. Machinery, not spiritual, sort of like creativity in a sense, same way. And so that potential is in everybody, but nobody's interested in that. Nobody's interested in approaching that in this sense. But what do I have to do to get to that? Well, that's Dharma. What do you need to do to practice becoming awakened? I mean, arriving at some degree of illumination, which is maybe a particle of genius. Illumination. Oh, I am, maybe. The potential of a genius, creative. I can create. Say, first grade, maybe kindergarten. Mechanics of what creativity is about. Oh, I'm creative. I can create. Beginner's level. Oh, I'm an artist. I'm a musician. Beginner's level. Oh, I'm a physicist now. Beginner's level. Welcome to the world of theories. Nobody knows. Theory rules, but nobody knows. You know the theory rules. They're all in the same box, mind box. Nobody knows except the mystics, the yogis, who don't care about that, who are participating in the spatiality of the universe. They are living space.
What do the sleeping and the dead have in common?
Is there a difference? Sometimes the dead are more awake than the awakened, right? Maybe. Say, what's the point? Yeah. Now, you also hear in the traditions, spiritual traditions, better to be dead than to be alive. And you hear in the language of the masters, I am already dead to the world, especially in Zen masters. I'm already dead, because without being dead, you can't be alive. That means your ego has to be dead and your soul has to be awake. So anyway, you cut it. We're talking about the paradox of death, the illusion of it, and the paradox of awakening and living. Who's alive, who's awake? The living shall not die. You've heard that. Something there. What is it that will not die? Was Jesus a fool? Was he an idiot? What was he? Just babbling to himself? Or was he really a channel for the wisdom of the ages and the masters, the conscious beings?